I'm JT Burcham. Welcome to People and Projects. Today we are honored to be talking Adoption Month with Senator Jon Husted. Thank you so much for being here, sir. Um, it's an honor to celebrate National Adoption Month with you. I understand adoption is important to you. You're passionate about this subject.
Oh, I definitely am because I was blessed to be adopted. I
Wow.
started out life in a foster home and then was blessed to be adopted by my mom and dad, Jim and Judy Husted, who provided me a great start in life and taught me good values, hard work, personal responsibility, family and faith, all of those things that are important in life. I learned them because I was blessed to be adopted by wonderful people.
Yeah. Wow. That is pretty neat. Now, you have then gone on to serve the state of Ohio as lieutenant governor. I'm guessing you've probably had a chance to impact adoption in Ohio. Yes? How
Yeah,
have you had a
yeah.
chance to do that?
Well, it's interesting. I was working on a piece of legislation when so I always knew I was adopted, but I didn't know the circumstances around it until much later in life. I was working on a piece of adoption legislation to do tax credits and to help make it more financially feasible for people to adopt. We don't want cost to be a burden in helping a young person find a forever home. And the people from the adoption agency asked me, they said, well, do you know anything about your birth mother? Do you know anything about your parents, your birth parents? I said, no, I really don't know anything. And they said, well, would you like to find out? And I'd always been reluctant to do that because as a little kid, I was like, well, that's not really right. I don't want my mom and dad to think that I'm interested in this. But then as I got older and my wife was talking about my wife about, the fact that for health reasons, we may want to know a little bit more about it, the origin. I said, sure, let's go do this. And what I learned was a pretty dramatic story that makes me feel even more blessed every day. That my birth mother had lost her husband in Vietnam. And she already had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old children, boys. And she became pregnant from another man. And then he didn't want her to have that baby. He didn't want her to have me. He wanted her to have an abortion. And she decided ultimately to have an adoption. And because of her courageous decision, I'm here. I got to have this life because of what she did. And so that really just affected my heart even more to do more, to help young people find forever homes. So I've been very involved from a public policy point of view over time. Just trying to encourage adoption, encourage, foster care and just families that to help these young people, because I've met so many of them that are struggling, and I know I'm blessed, and so I'm trying to give back in every way I can.
Wow. What an absolutely heart-wrenching story. You're exactly right. Adoption changes the world for more than one person. I mean,
Yeah, oh my goodness.
with
If you
children.
ask my mom, yeah, you ask my mom, she would tell you how important it was because she couldn't have a baby. She had numerous miscarriages and they didn't think they're ever going to have a child. And then when I came into their life, I always tell them, well, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. And they would argue back, no, you were the best thing that ever happened to us. And that's just a wonderful thing. And it changes everybody's life. I mean, when you have a child that just wouldn't have had a hope, and then they get into a family where they're loved and supported, it changes everything.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess, while we're talking about adoption, I heard you say the word, even abortion. I bet you have, that kind of changes your whole perspective, doesn't it? Such a heart-wrenching story.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Interesting. I didn't know that about you, sir. So
Yeah. Well, it does change your perspective on things, and it makes you it makes you empathetic with everybody. I'm empathetic with the situation my birth mother found herself in. I mean, I'm empathetic with adopted parents. I see the challenges that so many people face in life. One of the interests, because I didn't talk about this for the longest time. I didn't really talk about it in public because it just wasn't. I'm just kind of a private person when it comes to my personal life. But I remember the first time I ever told the story about my circumstances, and then people came up to me all proud that they too had been adopted, or as parents, they had an adoption. And then I started to share the story a little more broadly. And then I started to talk to foster kids, kids that grew up in foster care, and kids that have those experiences. And then they're like, wow, you were in foster care? And they said, I can't believe it. They would say to me that, gee, maybe I can do some great things in life too, like you have. And it really helped me connect with a lot of those kids that are in the foster system. And even though my circumstance was very, very, very much easier than theirs, because I was only there briefly as a baby, but they just start to feel, like sometimes they feel less than, and they shouldn't feel that way. They didn't do anything to put themselves in this situation. And it really has helped me create some bonds with some young people who've been in the foster system. And my wife, God bless her heart, she really has been engaged in this, Tina, at trying to help kids who are aging out of foster care in the foster system find support when they. There's so many things that we can do to help people.
Yeah, interesting. So as you mentioned your wife working with adoption some, what are some of the big challenges you sometimes hear, and how do folks get around some of those? I mean, what are the challenges to adoption? I don't mean to ask a trick question, but I mean, are there hurdles that you hear commonly from folks,
Well, whether it's foster families or adoption, it can be a bureaucratic process. I mean, it really is something that is not easy to do in some circumstances, and there's two sides to that coin. You could say, well, that's good because we want to make sure people are serious about being foster families or adoptive parents. So you want to put a little rigor into it, but you also don't want to make it so hard that you keep people out of it. And then there's costs sometimes associated with it. I know at the federal and state level, we've tried to help with tax credits and things like that to eliminate the costs affiliated with it. But most of most of the children who can't find homes, they're not infants. They're maybe children who've come from broken families. Their parents either are incarcerated, they have addiction in their background, parents who are addicted, and maybe they experience some kind of abuse. So the children are fragile and sometimes broken, and some families are not prepared to do all that. You got to find the right match for you. And some people, I've met some adoptive families and foster families that they have such huge hearts, and they foster, dozens and dozens of children. And I met others who've adopted many, many children, and, they're just great blessings in the lives of those kids. But there are all kinds of unique barriers that fall in those categories and more.
I guess kind of interesting to hear your story. Back to your personal story. I think every probably child or foster kid, who finds themselves in that place, there's always that mystery of looking for your real parents. Tell a little bit about that journey. Was that harder than you thought it might be? Was it easier?
Yeah. So, over the years, as I've shared the story about the fact that I was adopted, a lot of people have shared their stories, and they're all unique. My sister was also adopted, and one thing I didn't mention is that one of the reasons that I wanted to let wanted to do the research on it was, yes, for the health reasons, to find out if there are any genetic issues that we needed to be aware of that would affect the health of my children. But it was also, I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you to my birth mom. I always wanted to let her know that it all worked out, because I could imagine being in her shoes and saying, gee, did I do the right thing? I wonder what ever happened to that baby, her baby. And I wanted to write her a letter and just tell her everything worked out great, because I was Speaker of the House at Ohio at that time. I had a great life, wonderful wife and kids. And I found out, though, she died. She died much earlier, and I never got to tell her that. So that was my story. My sister, on the other hand, she did find out and did connect with her birth mother. But other than that, they just made the connection. That's it. But my nephew did have a genetic problem as a result of something that was passed down, where my sister didn't know this, but every one of her male children would eventually become blind. And my nephew is going through all that right now because of a genetic problem that he has. And so there are all these different stories that people have about their lives and why they wanted that connection. I know that some people connect and it's not good, that they don't, that finding out more didn't improve their lives and they didn't have a good connection. Other people have built bonds with their biological families and siblings and had great relationships. So it is different, family to family, person to person. But I think that all of those decisions should be in the hands of the child that was adopted. They should make the choice whether they do this or not. And most states, that's a pretty much more easy process. And oh, by the way, like, people are finding relationships that they didn't know because of a lot of these DNA testing things like Ancestry.com and 23andMe, and they're finding out they had half brothers, half sisters out there, and so a lot of times that's also driving people to want to get connected.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, one last question. Time's flying quick. If you could talk to someone who was just contemplating maybe adopting, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them to maybe consider adoption?
Oh, goodness. It will change your life and change the life of the child that you adopt. It's so important. I think it's hard to live a fulfilling life without passing along a little bit of what you have and the wisdom you have and the life you have, and sharing that with a young person who's in need, because you develop a bond. There's a sense of satisfaction that comes with parenting a child that, yes, it's hard work, but you develop a bond, and it gives you purpose and meaning in your life in ways that you can never possibly convey other than truly experiencing it. And you are literally saving the life of a child in many ways by giving them a brighter future. And I want to talk to moms who maybe have an unwanted pregnancy and they don't know what to do. Adoption is an option, because there is a huge demand for newborn babies, people that couldn't have children, that want to have children. And you can give that child life, and you can give that family, a blessing that you could never possibly imagine. They will be so grateful for. So everybody in this process, whether you're contemplating providing, having a baby and providing that baby for adoption, just know that there's going to be a loving family out there for them. And for every family that's considering it, there are a lot of children out there today in their, from toddlers to elementary school, junior high, and even high school, that need a forever home. And if you can do it, God bless you. They need you.
Senator Jon Husted, thank you so much for sharing your story. Adoption Month, November. Interesting to hear the your mom, your stepmom, it changes everybody's lives. So,
Oh yeah, my mom and dad, they're just the best, and I wouldn't be here having the success I've enjoyed in life and the experience that I've had without them. And they gave me a loving home with the right kind of values, and I'm blessed.
I hear gratefulness in your voice. Yeah. So, we are out of time. Thank you so much. It's such an honor, and I appreciate you talking about such a personal story and such a great issue. Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work. Have fun in Washington.
Yeah. Well, we'll celebrate National Adoption Month here in November, and hopefully we'll have touched a heart today.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. We're honored.